Batwoman is back once again with episode 3 of season 2 this week, titled Batgirl Magic. And this was a good episode. Overall, just this season so far is a really good start to the season and just way better than what we got in season 1. So this gets me really excited to see what else we're getting in this season, because so far, like I said, it's off to a good start, so I'm excited to see where this goes. And there's a lot of setup in this episode for the rest of the season. And then, of course, we did actually have stuff going on here in this episode as well. But before I get into all of that, I would like to give a spoiler warning. So if you've not yet seen episode 3 of Batwoman season 2, then go watch that, because we're talking about all the spoilers, breaking it down, and all that good stuff. But now that you've been warned, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this breakdown. So, we start off this episode of Batwoman with the introduction to the character of Victor Zsasz. And this is a character that was so cool to see in this episode. I really like this version of Victor Zsasz. In this episode, he's played by Alex Morph. And we've seen this character multiple times in live action before, and I don't know if I'd say this is my favorite version, because I do really like the version from Gotham, but this definitely was a great version of the character, because one of the things that makes this version so different from other live action versions is literally the defining part of this character, because Victor Zsasz, obviously he's a murderous psychopath, but he literally cuts himself and makes tally marks on his body with scars to keep track of and count how many people he's murdered. And that's always like the unique defining part of that character. And in other live action renditions, we've never really seen that. Like in Gotham, he like really the only part of his skin you saw was his head, and he didn't have any scars there. In Birds of Prey, you did see that he had the scars, but I don't think he actually like took his shirt off or anything. You saw the scars. But here, Victor Zsasz, you saw like he was just wearing shorts or something there, and he had scars all over his body, all over his chest, all over his arms, his legs, and then he even started going off on his head as well, which was awesome to see. That's something that I've been missing from those other live action versions of this character. So I really, really loved seeing that here in this rendition. And we see that heavily represented here in this first scene, where he murders this married couple here, and then he automatically takes off his shirt and then starts scarring up himself. Like that was just so cool to see. But our intro to Batwoman in this episode is we see her taking down another member of the False Face Society, who is being set up to be a big part of the season, and we get another big setup tease for that at the end of the episode, which we'll talk about there. But so far from what we know, this False Face Society has this type of drug called the snakebite toxin, and it's basically a mixture of like Scarecrow's fear toxin, and I don't know if they said like Bane's venom toxin. I don't completely know, but I mean that would make sense, and that would definitely be a deadly combo. So I'm excited to see where they go with that. But then also going on with the Crows and their, trying to fight crime in Gotham City. Jacob, he gets Kate's phone, because Kate Kane's phone has been found, so it's brought to Jacob, and he spends all night trying to find the password and everything, and then again we get a cliffhanger with that at the end of the episode, which again I will talk about later. But before I talk about all that stuff, I want to talk about what was going on in this episode with Alice and Sophie, because as we saw at the end of last episode, they got kidnapped, and they've now been taken to Safiyah's island, and Alice's plan is like, oh, I'm just going to kill Safiyah because she ruined my plan to get the perfect revenge on my sister. So they wake up on this island, and this is where we get a bit of backstory here with their rivalry here, because Alice was actually a student of Safiyah's, and really this character of Safiyah and this whole island is really just giving me like some Ra's al Ghul League of Assassins vibes. Like that's just what it reminds me of. That's what I think of. So it is interesting to see those kind of dynamics here. And it's literally the same thing how Batman was a student of Ra's al Ghul, Alice was a student of Safiyah. And during her time there training with Safiyah, when she got tired of doing that, she decided she was going to run away. But instead of just running away, she tried to actually steal a desert rose flower. And that is a super valuable thing that obviously Safiyah did not want stolen. And we see this actually later in the episode present when Mary, she has a patient who was treated for the bat toxin from last episode. And the part of that antidote that Alice gave Mary was from the desert rose. So now that patient has been completely cured of cancer. So clearly this desert rose flower is a super powerful thing. So I'm interested to see how that goes forward in the season as like maybe this big MacGuffin thing that everybody is trying to get to, because it's literally a super healer basically. So I'm excited to see where that goes. But something super crazy that I did not expect to get here with the Safiyah and Alice thing is that Safiyah has Kate's necklace, and she says, you know, if I had her plane blown up with Kate inside of it, how would I have this necklace? So basically they're making it seem that Kate is alive, she was not on that plane, and that Safiyah has kidnapped her. But then we find out that she actually is not on the island because she wouldn't have Alice and her in the same place at the same time. So Safiyah wants Alice to do something for her, and we don't find out what that is, but we do see that Alice and Sophie are then dropped off back in Gotham City in a dumpster, and now they have to go complete this mission to get Kate back. And I'm interested to see like if they actually do get Kate back, and if Safiyah is telling the truth, like is Kate actually alive? Like maybe they're gonna recast the character of Kate, and she at the end of the season they're gonna find her and she's gonna go back to being Batwoman. Like who knows? Maybe you'd get Ryan and Kate as like a dynamic duo of Batwoman. So that would definitely be interesting to see. But this Safiyah Alice story wasn't something I was really looking forward to that much, but in this episode with the reveals of Kate and everything, that gets me really interested to see where we go from here with all that stuff. But speaking of Ryan Wilder, she gets a job at the Hold Up, which is Kate's bar that she created. And that's basically to not only avoid Batwoman's suspicion, but also to please her parole officer, because she's, you know, really getting on her for not getting a job and stuff. But then Victor Zsasz is on the loose, and he goes off and kills a bunch of people at Hamilton Dynamics, and Ryan actually recognizes that it's him. So then after that, Batwoman goes to Victor Zsasz's apartment, and he literally whips out a rocket launcher. Like, he just had that hiding down there behind his bar. And that's not something that the average person would keep there. But you have to keep in mind that this guy is kind of a psychopath. So I'd be interested to see what else he has just laying around his apartment, because he literally whipped out a rocket launcher. Like, that's just insane. But one part here that I found really, really cool and that was a great idea was that Ryan actually, like I said, knew Victor Zsasz from her time in Blackgate. So she actually meets up with him at this restaurant, and she basically hires him to kill Alice, but multiple other people are giving him bigger offers and stuff, and that is actually Safiyah doing that. So that's interesting there. But just the fact that these two know each other, I think, is a really great way to differentiate Ryan from Kate, because she actually knows these villains and she can kind of be on their level. So I think that's a really cool way of doing it. Now, then we move on to Victor Zsasz actually shows up at Mary's clinic, and that's definitely not a good thing. So Ryan has got her suited up as Batwoman again to take down Zsasz, and she tells Luke, like, oh, I made some changes to the suit and everything. And, you know, I love the suit. I really do love the suit. It's a huge improvement, but the wig, I think the original one was better. Like, don't get me wrong, this new wig, it's cool and everything. Like, I like how it has, like, the tips are red and everything. But I just definitely prefer the regular original red wig, because first of all, the whole point of the wig was to hide the identity of Batwoman. But basically, Ryan's new wig is literally her hair, her regular hair, with red tips. So I don't really get the point of that. Plus, I just think she looks better with the red hair. And then literally in this episode, Ryan, when she was telling Luke about it, she was like, the wig. Like, the wig is the big problem. And then Mary was like, oh, the wig looks great and everything. But no, it doesn't. Like personally, I don't like the wig. I prefer the old one. It just makes her feel more like Batwoman also. But let me know in the comments below, which wig do you prefer? Because like I said, I prefer the new suit, but the wig just... I'm just not into it. That's just my personal opinion. But she does still look really, really cool here when she's taking down Victor Zsasz, and she actually knocks him out with her new bow staff, which was really cool to see because we don't usually see Batman or Batwoman use a bow staff. That's usually more of like a Robin, Nightwing type thing. So that was really cool to see her use that here, and I'd like to see her using that more. But then that's the end of the big long story with Victor Zsasz in this episode. Hopefully we see him appear some other time, whether it's in this season or future seasons, because like I said, I do really like this version of that character. But Luke actually gives a gift to Ryan at the end of the episode. He gives her a new batarang because, as we saw in the beginning, she just kept running out of batarangs because her aim really isn't that great. And it's kind of like a peace offering because he has finally accepted her as the new Batwoman, because really this whole time he was kind of just mad at her and giving her a hard time because she wasn't Kate, and he still blames himself for Kate's death, whether she actually is dead or not. So I feel like that was a really cool scene there to see that. But as Mary said, Gotham needs a Batwoman, and at this moment, Ryan is the one that needs to fill those shoes because she is the one that can do this. But then this is where we get some crazy cliffhangers here, because first of all, we are at the Crows HQ, and the Crows find out that the leader of the False Face Society is some dude wearing a black mask, and that is obviously Black Mask, Ryan Sionis. So we heard a couple weeks ago that this character was going to be in this season, but now actually hearing them say Black Mask, even though they don't actually know that's his name, that was really cool to see that. So I'm excited to see what actor is playing the character and what his mask looks like and everything. So I'm just really excited for that. But then something crazier is that Jacob, he was able to get the passcode into Kate's phone, and he's looking through her images, and I think it was actually in her DM. Somebody sent her a picture of a painting, and there was like Sapphire written on it or something. And this painting, Jacob said it was a painting from Jack Napier, and it depends on what's actually canon to this universe, but Jack Napier was the name of the Joker before he became the Joker in the original Batman 1989 movie with Michael Keaton. So, I mean, is this a painting that the Joker did? Because that's something that Jack Napier actually did in that movie, was he had the museum scene and he went over the painting and everything. So is that something that's canon to this universe? Or is Jack Napier, is that just kind of like a reference and it's just, oh, that's just a famous painter in this universe? I don't know, but it definitely gets me interested, and that was like the big cliffhanger for the episode. So it does make me think that maybe there might be some sort of Joker setup here, some sort of Joker connection, but based off the first season, it sounds like the Joker is dead. So I don't really know, like maybe someone else becomes the Joker or something. I don't really know, but I'm interested to see how this goes. But anyways, guys, let me know down in the comments below, what did you think about this episode of Batwoman Season 2? What did you think of Victor Zsasz? What did you think of the whole Alice Safiyah storyline with Kate possibly being alive? And what did you think about Batwoman's brand new suit? So, stay tuned for my episode 4 review and breakdown coming, of course, this time next week after we see episode 4. But for now, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please